welcome to CyberBytes, the podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Cooper, co-founder of Aspiron Search. This week's guest is Giora Engel, CEO and co-founder at Neosec, now part of Akamai. Giora is no stranger to cybersecurity startup life, having had two successful exits now, first with LightCyber, which he founded with one of my previous guests, Michael Mumcuoglu, which sold to Palo Alto Networks, also known as PAN, and more recently his API security startup Neosec, which is now formed as API Security Akamai. How are you, man?
Good, great. How are you?
I'm really well, mate. I'm really well. So you're back in Israel now?
Yeah, I'm back in Israel as of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Very different than the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that we finally got you on the show. I actually had your co-founder Michael Mumcuoglu from LightCyber on the show, who's obviously now founded Cardinal Ops. And I said that I was speaking with you today, and I said, "Can you share with me some fun facts?" And do you know what he said?
Not sure, no.
No, he said that you two have been best buddies from like the age of 15 to 30. He said that you started companies together. You've even got married like 2 months apart. So he said you two are real bros.
Yeah, we just happened to sit next to each other on I think on 10th grade.
Yeah.
And since then, we did so much together.
He's a legend, mate. He's a good guy. But great. So great to have you on the show. With all my guests, I like to go right back to where it all began and how you got into the industry.
So for me, the journey started, as I was a teenager. I was kind of programming all sorts of things, and actually, I just remember now that some of my projects were around like parsing HTTP traffic, and it's actually very much related to what I'm doing today. Just did it in high school. Then I spent about 6 years in the army in cybersecurity space, and that was just an amazing period. I did so many interesting, important things back then. And then after that, I'm shortening it a little bit, but studied physics, did a few things, and then started my first cybersecurity company. That was LightCyber with Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And LightCyber eventually, after about 6 years, was acquired by Palo Alto Networks, where I spent about 3 years as a VP of product. And then I started Neosec in 2020, just when the pandemic started. I really remember these days. We registered the company. We were starting to speak to investors, but I don't think we even had one physical meeting with investors back then, because all of a sudden everything changed. Nobody knew what to do, and that was kind of the time when Neosec started. And about 3 years after, we got acquired by Akamai, which now I'm VP of API Security at Akamai.
Unreal. You've made that sound like such a short journey, but I know there's many years of hard work have gone into that. When you was in the military, was you on the offensive or defensive side of the fence?
The offensive side. Typically cybersecurity is more like on the offensive side.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so with LightCyber, can you just give the audience a quick idea of what that company was? Because I know it's slightly different to what you've founded at Neosec.
So LightCyber, again, starting kind of from my roots, being a little bit on the offensive side made me understand how attackers think. And LightCyber was all about the fact that all these breaches started to happen in it was around 2011, and that was really the first time where it wasn't just a malware story or just some kind of small interruption. It was like a real data breach where a lot of money was lost and so on for many companies. And I realized that it's really these attackers behind it that have like a whole plan of what to do and how to use the information and so on. And the security controls are really not relevant for that type of adversary. So LightCyber was all about finding the attacker as they operate inside the network. Back then, most of the attacks were, typically some kind of compromised machine, based typically an email that somebody opens and so on. And from there, the attackers would laterally move and achieve their goals. So that was the LightCyber story.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, the Neosec story is kind of an evolution of that attack landscape. Because if you think about what, the way that the digital transformation happens today, the way that, we consume our services from, our banks, from basically any type of service, healthcare, everything that we do, it's all digital right now. And the way that it works, it's all applications rather than data centers and devices. So when you think about where is the critical information, where is the critical application, it's typically an application environment that is hosted either in a public cloud like Amazon or something like that. And a specific employee device typically does not have access to it. So if you just compromise a random employee in your bank, it's probably not going to give you any benefit. Instead, you actually should target that application. And Neosec is about API security. It's about protecting these applications in a very similar manner. It's about finding the behavioral patterns of these attackers as they access these applications, and being able to distinguish between them and the normal traffic.
Nice. Let's segue straight into Neosec. Let's give the guests a real overview of when you first founded was what you've then achieved now, but let's talk about when you first, the inspiration coming out of Neosec and what you were all about at that time.
We saw that application security was somewhat stagnant for a long time, because when the big web applications started, maybe about 20 years ago, I would say, when we started to use our bank accounts through the web and through the mobile applications, that revolution was a long time ago. And from then until now, there was some advancement, but for the most part, these organizations were building like one big application, and we're adding more and more services on that. In the recent years, all of a sudden, everything became digital. Every interaction, it's not just the accessing to your bank account, it's many other interactions. It's also the interactions between your bank and the insurance company, and maybe other affiliates that together provide some services. Those interactions became much more rich and complex, and the number of different interactions that we have today is much larger than before. So that actually created an interesting gap, because it's no longer just a web application. It's actually a programming interface that is exposed to the outside and enables quite a lot. I mean, it can enable also web applications, but it also enables business-to-business traffic and many other types of conducting business. And that huge growth basically required some different tools to handle it, because these new APIs were typically headless. It's all authenticated traffic. All that traffic looks legit if you use the standard way of looking at it. But then the question is, what are the clients? What do they do when they access the data? Maybe they get compromised. Maybe your partner is misimplemented, and can actually cause some data leakage on your side. So all these new scenarios were completely behind or below the radar for existing visibility, and that's what gave us the idea to come up with a new method that doesn't just look for known patterns and block known attacks, but also looks for the behavior of these clients that access these APIs, because everything is done through the APIs today.
Absolutely. It's obviously the API security space is very crowded. Like when you founded, obviously you had the idea, and how did things evolve over the time, particularly with other startups coming up trying to solve similar problems? How did it evolve from starting to where it is now?
So when we started, I don't think it was such a crowded space, but maybe very shortly after, all sorts of other companies were started as well. I think people realize that it's the next big thing, just from the simple fact that the new way to do networking or to communicate between applications, microservices, any type of communication is APIs. So it really requires more than just a mention or support for it in other products. But that's saying APIs today or saying even API security is a very broad space. It's almost like saying networking or network security. There's a room for actually quite a few different products and definitely different vendors. So that I think is really the reason why there are so many different companies. That's kind of the new frontier. I mean, we used to focus a lot on network, on the endpoint, but network and endpoint are becoming less central from a security perspective, and applications are taking more of the stage.
Yeah, nice. Because even the OWASP API Security Top 10 coming out, it just shows how big the problem is. Like, and yeah, you are right. Like, you are seeing lots of new API, particularly early stage startups. Funny enough, a couple of out of Israel as well. So
to your point about OWASP, I think OWASP is a great framework, and it helps security practitioners to categorize different types of vulnerabilities and handle them and so on. But I think vulnerabilities is only part of the problem, because even if you have perfect APIs with no vulnerabilities, they can still be abused, right? I mean, the attackers might actually get the credentials, maybe compromise one of your users, and it's not even your fault. It's just that the user got compromised, and then they can do all sorts of things with these credentials. Some applications are even inherently open to many users, like for example, banks. I mean, they're inherently open to a lot of different users. It's not so hard to get a user that application. So I think when we talk about API security, it's always beyond vulnerabilities. I mean, vulnerabilities is one layer, but abuse of APIs is really what we want to stop, because that's really where the damage happens. And it can be as a result of a vulnerability, but in many cases, it's actually no vulnerability involved. Just the APIs were accessed in a way that seems legit, but is actually not legit.
yeah. Is it just one product, or have you got a variety of different products under the Neosec suite, which is obviously now API Security Akamai? But because I saw, was it ShadowHunt was more like threat hunting? So do you have different products?
So we offer one product that covers quite a few different areas.
Okay.
From discovery of APIs and posture, behavioral analytics, response, like all the the spectrum of capabilities. So that's the main product platform. On top of that, we also offer the ShadowHunt service, which is quite unique. Now, I'll give you maybe the origin of that service. In the before Neosec, LightCyber was practically the first XDR company. So today, XDR is kind of a big space. There are many different very good vendors, of course, including Palo Alto Networks, where where we were before. And XDR, I think what we learned over the years is that the customers don't really have enough expertise. I mean, they have some expertise, but there is always more expertise that can help to threat hunt and have better outcomes of how you can use the product. And because of that, that XDR space came up with the concept of managed detection and response, or managed threat hunting services. Today, practically all vendors provide that, and there are also some service providers that provide these services. When we started Neosec, we realized that it's a very, very similar situation. Most security groups don't have specific API security expertise, and therefore they can really benefit from from that level of service on top of the product. So that's how we created ShadowHunt, and we were in a unique position to be able to do that, because our main claim to fame is the fact that we have all the data. Like our product can hold all that API activity for 30 days. Very, very similar to the concept of XDR, where all the data resides within the product, so that the customer can actually access the data and see what exactly happened. And same for our managed service. When we go back and we see what exactly happened, we can actually give better outcomes. We can even threat hunt and look for additional things.
Yeah, nice. You mentioned customers. What sort of customers were you targeting? And obviously, I know you're now Akamai, but initially as Neosec, who were you targeting? And now, how are you helping Akamai customers?
We're targeting mostly large enterprise customers, but it's actually, I mean, digital transformation is part of every company's journey
Agreed.
today. Doesn't matter if you're in healthcare or financial services or any other field. Of course, if it's a completely net new company, it's a company that started in the last few years, everything is digital, so everything is cloud native and so on. But even for more traditional companies, every new development that they have is typically born in the cloud, API driven, and so on, because they need that velocity. They need to change and they need to create new products very fast. So basically, the applicability is very, very wide. I must say that when we were Neosec, we worked with a lot of good companies, and of course we still do. I mean, those are very loyal customers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since we joined Akamai, it made it possible to tap into so many, of the largest of the largest companies in the world. I mean, the companies that we all use, for almost every interaction that we have on the internet. And it's just amazing to see, how we take it from the scale that we were into a few levels up on the scaling and type of customers and teams that we work with. That's really exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that was going to be one of my questions. Why did Akamai make so much sense when they reached out to potentially acquire? Was it really the scalability piece of taking it to that next step?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's very simple. I mean, our vision was to create the leading platform of API security and really to help prevent these attacks for all these large organizations. When we had that discussion, we had discussions with Akamai over time about integration, like we have with many other vendors, even today, by the way. We integrate with all sorts of vendors, with API gateways, with all sorts of WAFs and CDNs and cloud environments and so on. And we have very good relationships with all these vendors. Some of them, by the way, are now competitive with Akamai, but the concept of API security goes across different platforms. We don't really discriminate. We work with all the platforms because we know that even Akamai customers, use different platforms for their APIs. It's not only everything on Akamai. There's a combination of different technologies. So that was kind of the first interaction, and then we had more and more customers that were also Akamai customers, and we realized that if we had a more native integration with with Akamai technology, it would make it so much easier for these huge companies to just implement API security, because it turns out, and a lot of people don't really talk about the challenges of it's easy to to only speak about the bright and exciting things, but in our space in API security, the real challenge is the implementation, because you need to actually tap into like the most critical production environment of the customer, and to get typically a copy of the data, and that takes time. I mean, of course, the larger the company, the more time it takes. Even though technologically it can be very fast, still it takes time to get the commitment from different teams and so on. With Akamai, like as Akamai, we can take the existing Akamai customers and with a click of a button enable API security on their environment. Of course, they need to have the license and so on, but the implementation is all of a sudden so trivial that we don't even need to have the customer on on the Zoom call. Instead we just we coordinate with the customer, we just press a button and it's there. So
how do you do that?
Changes the experience.
Is that the native connector?
Yeah, that's exactly the native connector. And what's interesting, I mean, what made that connection between Akamai and Neosec so natural is the fact that Neosec is really a SaaS company. Like in our space, most of the companies are not SaaS companies. They provide software that can either be run as a SaaS service, basically on the vendor's environment, or you can run it on your data center. We decided, because of our XDR background and because of all that long period where we learned it kind of the hard way, we decided to go 100% SaaS because we know that this is the right way to do it. And therefore, our platform is a real multi-tenant SaaS platform, just like the native the core Akamai platform that can benefit from the scale and the way that it's built. So interestingly, connecting two SaaS platforms if you make the effort, and we had a few quite a few long months of many people working on that native connector. Once you make that connection, it's really trivial because you don't actually need to spin new environments and so on. It's like it's only kind of background orchestration, and existing customer can just press a button, and the plumbing kind of happens by itself, and with the same user credentials they can access the additional capabilities. So that's very, very exciting. By the way, in the same time, we continue to develop all the other integrations and support them, but also develop new integrations, because again, we believe that API security is all about coverage of all the APIs. It's not enough to cover just one environment. You need to be able to cover all the different customer environments. But customers that already happen to be on the Akamai CDN network, I mean, for them, the transition is super simple. I must say that recently, since we
Oh, I think I've lost you, Giora. The volume just cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Got ya. Sorry, just the last 10 seconds of what you said. Sorry.
I was saying that the customers sometimes can't believe how easy it is, because they have this demanding production environment that is very sizable, and we speak to them about about the implementation process, and basically the next day it's up and running, and we can talk about the value that they get, the visibility of the API. That we can talk about the interesting things. So that's really exciting.
Was the you may not be able to say, but was it as easy when Palo Alto when when they acquired LightCyber? Was it as easy, or?
Look, so Palo Alto is also a great company, and had a really great journey there. I think we actually did a very similar thing. We implemented our behavioral analytics on top of data that came from the firewalls and the endpoint agents. So we implemented something similar.
Nice.
Back there, it was a little bit harder because the firewalls are not inherently a SaaS platform, so it required developing firmware and so on. I mean, it was a pretty significant heavy lift. Here, I think it was just much more natural to connect these two SaaS platforms together, and that was kind of the vision behind that. And again, to kind of close the loop, from my perspective, we're basically accelerating the same vision that we had. Now, as Akamai, we can just execute faster, and we support all the different platforms. It's not really specific to only Akamai customers that have the CDN. We just move faster now. We have a larger team. We hire more people. It's
love it.
It's amazing.
What big question to finish this off, but what's the future for API security?
So API security, I think as I mentioned in the beginning, I think it's the new frontier. I think it's going to be the area where we see like most of the new innovation, because again, everybody is developing microservices and APIs, and those are kind of synonymous. The microservice is the software piece, and the API is the connection between the components. So whenever people speak about microservices, they also kind of have to speak about APIs. So I think that there's a lot to be a lot of progress that we all need to make from a security perspective, because it's very different. It's no longer protecting infrastructure. It's no longer protecting data centers. It's about protecting code and the communications between the different services. So I think it's very exciting. I think it opens up many new opportunities for the security team to be more embedded within the actual business outcomes of the applications, and not just the infrastructure. And I think it's gonna grow significantly in the next few years, both on the runtime side as well as testing that we also do, and other capabilities.
Awesome. Giora, all the best of success now at Akamai. I wish you a great success, and who knows, man, we may be having to do startup number 3 at some point. Who knows?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, man. Speak to you later. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspiron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspironsearch.com.